virtually nobody could find this online. I posted a video about it on TikTok talking about it, and people could not figure out where I found this document from. I ended up sharing the source mostly because uh, I didn't want to be a gatekeeper. You know, at the end of the day, yes, I do have content to create. I held on to it for quite a while. I figured, truthfully, in my heart and soul, I am a philanthropist, I guess you'd say. If I could be, I don't have the money to be yet, but um, I love people, and I think that humanity should know what is going on, the truth of how we came to be here, um, the process of evolution, and how we evolved, uh, how far back history goes, how far back humanity goes, what the actual history of humanity is, what actually the history of the earth is, because I think that actually they know quite a bit more than they say. I know quite a bit more than they say. They know for a absolute fact. I know because I actually have done mounds of research on the stuff. Uh, Connecting dots, it's crazy because you'll be researching one thing that you heard about, and you'll make a connection with another topic that you talked about, and they'll coincide. And that type of stuff happening is, to me, what validates it. When you're talking about two important events, or two certain conspiracies that you're reading about, and you're like, oh my god, wow, that connects to that one, that connects to that story, they're all interconnected. When that happens, it validates things for me. And that's not by coincidence. If you do enough research, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Or just watch my TikToks and I'll feed it all right to you. Even better yet, or listen to this podcast. I'm going to start trying to make longer podcasts, not just short stories that are only 3 minutes long. I'm going to kind of try and start treating it maybe a little more like a radio station, something like that. Started off by certain topics we talk about each night. Take requests. Willing to talk about anything and everything, which is conspiracy theories. I'll even do cryptids, Bigfoot, anything you want to talk about. Giants, Wendigos, anything fantastic, anything crazy. I'm down to talk about, because part of me believes in it all in a way. And after reading this document, there is nothing that is not possible for where our world's been, where they're going, where it's going, where we're going, which is definitely not the good way right now as a species, as a human race. But by putting out information like this is the stuff they should have told us from the get-go. This is the stuff they should have taught us in school. At the end of the day, the truth shall set you free, right? We should have learned the truth from the get-go. I think that humanity would be much different if we had learned the truth from the get-go, and we'd be heading in the right direction instead of the wrong, evil direction that we're heading in as a society. This document just verifies what's going to happen and what's going on here. It'll absolutely blow your mind, folks, and be prepared. It may give you a feeling of sadness, maybe, at times, at certain times, but mostly it's in the beginning. That's at the end. In the beginning, it's absolutely amazing what you hear, and stick around because you're gonna want to hear it. As I said, this is The Secret of Secrets, Buseji Mountain Secrets. Buseji Mountain is in Romania. And something absolutely out of this world was discovered there. So this gentleman, Simon Day, he wrote this in 2013, and he kind of did the same thing I did. Stumbled upon something online by sheer luck. I like to think it's even fate, because it's taught me so much about our world that most people don't know, most people can't even fathom. Most people will just snuff you when you talk about it. You have to be a higher level thinker to entertain this stuff. The people that don't entertain it, they can't fathom outside of their rat race and the matrix. Work, and work some more. Just a cycle of paying, working, and living. Humanity's not meant to do that. We are meant to be very powerful, higher beings, always innovating, always changing, gaining technology, gaining genius. And if people were able to do that and be free, live off probably the land, live off the land, they would be able to tap into these unique characteristics and traits that we could achieve and that higher beings have achieved at higher dimensions. We're doing, the government's doing great. Yeah, they can time travel, they can do all this different stuff, but they got anti-gravity craft, they can travel at the speed of light, and the list goes on. I mean, they can do it, but humanity can't. They're holding us back. They're suppressing us. They're suppressing what we can be. And to me, this document finally proves that. So I want to share it. I think it needs to get put out there. I hope that Mr. Day does not get mad at me for deciding to share it. It needs to be told. I mean, obviously he wouldn't have put it online if he didn't want it to be told. So spread the knowledge, fam. Spread the knowledge of this. Don't be afraid to tell people. Tell the story. Whether they like it or not, who cares? You get the vibe and bail out if they don't want to hear it. But you'll get people. There's certain people that do care. There's certain people that are fascinated by the unknown, the history, the fantastic, the ancient, archaeology. It's just amazing. I mean, all of it is just totally amazing. I'm hopefully going to be lucky enough to do this for the rest of my life. I'd like to be a creator. So tune in, and I'm going to have merch coming soon, and along with other things like that. Might do some necklaces, bracelets, anything you can think of. Request any type of swag at all. But I'm going to go ahead and start reading this finally for you guys. I know I've been rambling. I apologize. But I'm going to go ahead and start reading this document. And stay tuned. Listen and don't go anywhere, because it's crazy. So, this is Simon Day narrating the story. At the beginning of 2012, I was reading through some posts, and one in particular was rather mundane, and I was about to leave the thread when I noticed a link and just clicked on it. This link opened up to the most amazing and incredible research journey I have ever been on. Since January 2012, I've been researching something incredible, and now I am going to reveal this bizarre story. What I read was so incredible that I spent the first few months trying to debunk it. Because if it were true, it would change my views on everything I've ever learned. No matter how hard I tried, I simply could not. He could not debunk it, fam. The reverse was happening, because I kept finding confirmation after confirmation of its validity. That's crazy. Daniel once said to me, must be a friend, that I'll never find the truth online, and he was almost right. When I first discovered it, there was only 2 websites talking about such a thing, and they were almost impossible to find. This one was hidden deeper than anything I've ever seen before, so buried it required an incredible fluke to even find it. I've given this information to a small handful of researchers, and I've spoken to many people who live around the Buseji Mountains. The researchers have all found their own confirmations, and the people around Buseji all talk of the events, historical and present, that happened there, things that entire villages have witnessed and or discovered. What this document will hopefully show you is what I found and some of the connections. Although what I discovered was regarding Romania, it is very strongly connected to the Giza pyramids, but especially the Tibetan mountains and Mount Kailash in particular. Tibet is in China. I have terrible trouble verbalizing what I know. I have found dozens of references to this discovery in ancient texts and even the Bible. I grasp the idea but then forget the words. I am absolutely positive that the locations do exist, and I believe that much of what has been said about what's inside is in fact true. I have enjoyed debunking conspiracies, and I don't classify myself as a conspiracy theorist. I am a free thinker and a truth seeker. Without letting go of old beliefs, this document will appear completely crazy. But I ask you to really think about how much of our history do you really believe is true? And do you believe that perhaps there are many things being hidden and not told? Absolutely. The truth would set the world free, but there are plenty who never want to lose control of this total fear-based society. So, this is a quick summary of a discovery that happened in 2003. Since the declassification of new ground-penetrating radar 2 years ago, which it's actually been around since the 1980s, the most staggering data has emerged of a complex labyrinth of underground systems in various parts of the world. At places like Guatemala and the South Americas, tunnels have been mapped under the Mayan pyramid complex and Tikal, which extend a full 800 kilometers to the opposite side of the country. Investigators remarked it was possible to understand how 500,000 Mayan Indians escaped the decimation of their culture. Way more than 500,000. So, there are 4 primary tunnels and further subtunnels that lead into deeper and bigger places which you will have heard of, but with different names. In these tunnels, you will find huge, and my heart startled with emotion and joy. How did you manage to get inside? Asked Caesar, affected by the intensity of the feeling that the image gave me. It is much simpler than you would expect. The ones who planned the whole assembly probably considered the first energy shield to be a real touchstone for the possible entrance, estimating it was enough for the whole structure's security. I have to admit they were right. Nothing could pass the first energy shield unless it was a superior and profoundly beneficial consciousness. Even in the case of an atomic combustion, the assembly was very well protected by the mountain. Maybe that was the reason the big gallery started suddenly, deep inside the mountain. I cannot say, though, how they technically created it. The same day I entered the projection room you see in front of your eyes, I was alone as I found out the terrible mystery that had remained hidden for 50,000 years. You can hardly imagine the feelings I had in those moments. There are some aspects I cannot tell you, though. You mentioned this number of years before, I interrupted Caesar. How can you tell that this is the right period of the time all of this has been here? It was the result of further scientific examination of some data they offered that you will also see after we enter the room. All of the events I described to you have occurred since last week. Many of them happened very quickly, and the changes of situations were dramatic sometimes. I shall tell you everything here before we enter the room, as you will be thrilled at what you see. We stopped at the line of the demarcation between the big gallery and the gigantic hall inside the mountain that held the hemispherical energy shield. Fascinated, I was listening to Caesar while I was watching the exotic sparkles on the blue surface of the hemisphere. After the decision to continue the research under Department Zero's management, I entered the projection room several times and cataloged everything, working together with our team of specialists. The next day, however, the first contradictory signals appeared from the political powers. The order that followed, one after another, revoking each other, were either strong or evasive and showed the existence of a big tension. I suspected that there was drama of a real battle. I had already sent over a secure phone line to the results of our discovery in the projection room. Apparently, that was the spark that lit the bomb. General Obadiah told me 2 days ago after he came back from Bucharest that the members of the Supreme Court Council for Protecting the Country were in a continuous meeting and keeping in touch with us after talking about the issue beforehand. They decided to make this tremendous discovery from Romania's mountains known all over the world. General Obadiah was part of the Supreme Court Council for Protecting the Country's structure, and his word counted a lot in favor of the declaration that Romania was to make to the whole world. He told me that there was some members of the Supreme Court Council for Protecting that country that were strongly against it, but they were in the minority. The emotions got so high at one point, those people stood up and left the room. The president's advisors were continually coming and going, transferring information from the External Diplomatic Relations Office to the Supreme Court Council for Protecting the Country meeting. When the American diplomats were informed that Romania would make an international announcement of crucial importance for the whole world, everything turned to chaos. The general told me that he had never seen such a rush and panic among diplomats. Nobody knew the cause, but everybody suspected something very serious and important was happening. At one point, the Romanian president was called to have a direct phone conversation with the White House. That was a very special and top secret discussion. He did not come back for a long time after that, but he informed everyone that a top American diplomat delegation was already on its way to Bucharest. The information spread very fast. All the transaction deals between the Romanian state and the international financial organizations were blocked in a couple hours. The declaration of a state of emergency in the mountain area was expected any moment. The Ministry of Defense gave an order of general alert for the two officers. There were moments of great panic and even terror among those involved in this operation, as no one knew the real cause creating the current tension. The discussions between the American officials and Romanian officials took place without an interpreter. They were so violent that there were many moments of crisis when the diplomats yelled at each other as loudly as they could, uttering multiple threats with measures of retaliation. The good part was that the other states of the world had not found out about the problem yet. What did they want to declare? I asked curiously. Mainly, it would have contained the most important data of the discovery made in the Buseji Mountains, giving evidence to the whole world such as pictures and other essential elements in order to clarify different aspects connected to the structure from inside the mountain. The greatest scientists would have been invited to study and search, and all the resources would have been mobilized to solve the numerous enigmas we were confronted with. But the most important aspect would have been the discoveries regarding the extreme ancient past of humankind and the real history that was almost entirely fabricated. Furthermore, there were other delicate elements that I can only reveal to you partially. But where did they know that all that came from? I asked. You will see immediately. Have a little bit more patience. The Americans reacted violently as the declaration would have shattered their planetary influence in a second. Even more, it could have thrown into chaos the economy of their country, maybe even the economy of the whole world. Actually, that was the main reason they invoked strong-arm tactics. They wanted to avoid panic and the disturbance of all the people on Earth. However, they did not suspect that the possible social anguish and disturbed condition might have appeared as a direct result of the lies and manipulations the ruling classes, especially the Masonic organizations, have been maintaining all this time. Through a very special diplomatic channel, a personal papal approach was received, advising towards great temperance before making the fundamental step for humankind. The Vatican had already been informed by the Americans, as it was considered by the latter a possible ally in blocking the revelations. Strangely, although revealing these aspects to the whole world would have reduced considerably the Vatican's power and its influence upon Christian believers, the Pope did not make a firm position against it, but hears instead for an efficient balance of pros and cons before presenting the declaration. He even communicated he would put at the Romanian state's disposal certain ancient documents from the secret archives of the papal administration that are very important to Romania and support the proofs of the discovery in the mountains. Finally, after 2 hours of discussion and consultation, a final collaboration agreement was reached with precise terms that balanced the interests of both countries. The Pope promised to make certain documents available to the Romanian state for the ancient papal secret archives, which are of great importance for Romania and also evidence supporting the discovery in the mountains. After 24 hours of talks, a final agreement occurred between the Romania, the Vatican, and the U.S., and they chose to cooperate under precise terms, which included the USA fast-tracking Romania into NATO. The Romanian state was to postpone disclosure for now. Of course. Basically, that was just a big old freaking long story of why they didn't propose it. Good old US of A. God forbid they lose their power. So I'm going to end it there. The projection room is next. It only gets better, fam, so stay tuned.